Good afternoon, everyone. Benjamin Lindsay here, managing editor at Backstage. Thanks so much for tuning in. I see the audience streaming in as I speak, tuning in for our latest edition of Backstage Live as part of our programming, The Slate. If you've been watching us for the last year, then you're well aware of what The Slate is all about. Backstage, in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, has been doing on-camera programming via webinars, Instagram takeovers, Q&As, with talent, casting directors, industry insiders, all to get you started best in your acting career. Know everything about the craft, the business, what you need to know for the audition room. And we're very excited to be continuing it into 2021, now going into summer 2021. Today we are sitting with Kevin Quinn. He is the star of A Week Away on Netflix. It premiered last Friday and has been sitting in the top 10 ever since. Musical film, he stars as Will, a young delinquent, as the film refers to him as, who goes off to a Christian summer camp and kind of reevaluates his life. A lot of growth, great character arc for Kevin, and can't wait to be speaking with him about it. So let me just see, and Kevin, I see that you've requested, so thanks for sitting through that intro. I will bring you up now. Hey, Kevin.
Hello, hello.
How's it going today?
Good, good. Benjamin, I think I'm still connecting to you. There we go.
There we go. We got it.
How are you?
Good, good. Do appreciate you finding the time to sit with us. I know there are some back and forth on connecting, so I'm really glad that we could square this away and get this interview underway.
Me too, me too. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. Well, first of all, congrats on A Week Away. It had such a great opening weekend over at Netflix. Just for our audience sitting in today, tell us a bit about Will's story and what the film is all about.
Yeah, so being that this is a faith-based film, it was important to have a character that was kind of introduced to the world as a fish out of water. A little bit more relatable for people who aren't involved with the world to be able to relate. So my character, Will, is a juvenile delinquent who finds himself at a crossroads, either go to a Christian summer camp or attend juvenile detention. He obviously chooses the Christian summer camp, and along the way, he meets a special girl, he meets a new best friend, and he finally finds a place where he belongs. So that's kind of the gist of it, and we've thrown in a bunch of musical numbers, and it's basically like a faith-based high school musical, if you can imagine.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely feels like a slice of that High School Musical life, for sure. And you, of course, are a recording artist yourself. You have roots in musical theater. What was it like for this to have the opportunity with Netflix to kind of marry both of those passions, both in the musical sense and the acting sense?
Yeah, it was really fulfilling for me creatively because they've always been kind of separate for me. I have my own artist project going with Capitol Records at this point, so that's out pretty soon here. But I've just always felt like it was removed from the stuff I do on the film side, because if there is music in a film or television show, it usually leans toward, like the musical kind of angle. But it was cool for me being able to combine the two, because it was just a completely new set experience that I had never done before. The process of making the movie itself is so much different when you have a musical as opposed to like a drama or a comedy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just the rehearsal process alone, you have some huge set pieces, a lot of choreography going on. Did it feel more like a traditional stage musical in that sense, just having that rehearsal experience with your fellow actors?
You would be surprised how similar they are.
Yeah.
You can imagine just cheating out to a camera instead of a live audience.
Fair enough. Yeah. And how is it that you first got involved? What was the audition process like for this one?
So the audition process was not your typical one for this particular project. I received an audition from my agent about a Christian musical that was called Best Week Ever at the time. And breakdown was for the character Sean, actually. So I first for the role of Sean, and anyone who's seen the film will know that that's kind of the bad guy, the bad character, or the antagonist, if you will. So I went in a couple times for that role, and I was offered the part, which was surprising, because I never felt like I related to it too much. So then when they offered me the part, I was a bit surprised. I was like, you know, can I get my hands on a script to read? And my manager was able to get me a script. I read through it, and I did that thing where actors do, and they gravitate towards a certain character's lines when they're reading the script, and you kind of imagine it. And that just happened throughout the whole script. I couldn't avoid it. So I called my manager and I said, look, I don't know what they're looking for in this character, but I really think the better role for me and my personality is Will. And they said to me, he said, you know, they're looking for a Charlie Sheen type. Your hair is too light and you don't have dark eyes like that. They want someone a little grittier. I was like, just give me a chance to audition, see if it goes further. And that's when I got the role.
Yeah, interesting. Have you ever been in that kind of situation when you're auditioning for something and you want to put yourself up for another role, or was this the first time that you've kind of advocated for yourself in that way?
It wasn't the first time necessarily. It was just the first time that it worked out.
Good, yeah.
Agency managers are good at their jobs and they submit you for the correct role, you know? So
yeah.
This was a very rare thing. Yeah, I think it was the exception and not the rule.
Yeah, well, it's great that it all worked out, of course. And to rewind a little bit, I'm sure that you're familiar with Backstage, but our audience today are kind of the working actors, the creators, people who cut their teeth in theater. And my understanding is that your roots really are in the Chicago theater scene, and you did Chicago PD, and these are kind of the early credits that you got. Can you tell us a bit about those early days and when the performing arts first started playing a role in your life?
Yeah, so you know, I had been doing community theater since I was maybe 13 years old. And my first professional audition was after I had done a short stint on American Idol when I was 15, which is way too young for anyone who's considering trying out at that age. But by the time I was 16, I had an audition for Steppenwolf Theater, Lord of the Flies. And I remember going in and being pretty afraid. I'm not going to lie, you know, pretty nervous. Actors, we all get nerves. But I dropped it, you know, when I walked in the door. I dropped all the baggage, which is something you hear from casting directors. Leave it at the door, you know. It sounds so cliche, but it's true. And I just remember living in that space of the character, you know, like crashed in a plane crash or stranded on this island. You know, what are my relationships with the other people here? Do I have anything in common with them? I started to ask those questions like even before I went into the audition room. And the more you can put yourself into a character, as you know, the better the audition is going to be, in my opinion. So it did start with Chicago theater, and it progressed to more roles in the theater scene. I did Henry V at Shakespeare Theater, the space. And those early days went up pretty quickly, and then they plateaued, and I did Chicago PD. I had a pretty solid audition in front of Claire Simon, who was one of the, I guess, hotter casting directors there. It gets a lot of work for actors. But yeah, so, you know, I did that, and I plateaued my work in Chicago, and I was like, well, what's next? I might as well go to LA. I definitely did everything there was to do in that market.
Yeah. And then, I mean, soon enough after that, Bunked came along, and that, would you kind of pinpoint that as your big break?
It's funny. I thought it was going to be, but it wasn't, in my opinion. I don't know if my big break is yet to come. I don't know if a week away is it. I think actors have a misconception that, you know, your first series regular role is going to be a big break. I think it's where it elevates you on in the industry's eyes, but I'm not sure it's always going to be a big break.
Yeah.
The thing about Disney Channel was it was a lot of young kids watching at the time. That was the demographic. We were appealing to these young kids, and they were just starting to use Instagram and TikTok at the time. So a lot of these Disney Channel actors, we get large social media followings, but it's not always representative of our actual stature in the industry. You know, I felt like even after Bunked, I was working harder than ever to get the next role because, you know, you can get put in a box, and it's one thing to go from Chicago Shakespeare to, you know, Jorge farted in the ravioli. You know what I mean? So you got to prove yourself all over again. And I felt like I had to do that after Disney Channel. And I'm always doing that, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, to break up a career by several big breaks is maybe the better way to look at it. It's not, you can't pinpoint one single thing. It's always going to be a series of successes. One leads to the next, of course.
I completely agree. That's how I've always looked at it. You know, the next job should be bigger and better if you can.
And this has all been happening in tandem with, as you mentioned, you are signed to Capitol Records. You have you're a recording artist in addition to the acting. You were touring at the top of last year before the world changed.
Yeah.
So how have you kind of been flexing the creative juices, the creative muscles over the last year? Have you been feeding that well?
I have. And I don't know if it's just I'm getting to an age or a place in my life where I'm finally growing up. You know, I'll be 24 in a month and a half here. But I wanted to make sure that I capitalized on my downtime, you know, and being stuck at home for so long, really the only thing I felt I could do for those, you know, 3 or 4 months was write. So I wrote music. I even started a screenplay, my first screenplay, which I'm not expecting to produce anytime soon. And it probably needs a lot of revisions, being my first or second script here. But, you know, I just wanted to write and get as much content out of my mind that I could. So if the time were to ever come that I had the capability to produce material of my own, that I would be ready for that. That's kind of how I approached it.
Yeah, yeah. And especially something like your first screenplay, as you say, there's going to be some growing pains to an experience like that, but it takes so much just to put pen to paper in the first place. So has it always been, have you always had that drive to be a self-starter, to create your own work? Is that kind of the long-term goal?
I guess I've always been entrepreneurial in that kind of sense. You know, I look up to a lot of leading men in Hollywood, people like Brad Pitt and their production companies like Plan B, and, you know, that's Appian Way, Leonardo DiCaprio, and they're all producing their own content. You know, the stuff that they're producing themselves. And mind you, they have the money, they have the resume, which is probably robust. They're also, you know, a little bit older than I am, but that would be my goal, that I could get to a point where I could pick and choose my projects based on what I want to do.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. Well, I mean, it feels very much that you feel like you have a lot more to do, and I mean, that's a great place to be. You're getting your career started. You have this Netflix film. Looking ahead, are you in the process of auditioning? Are you doing the self tapes during quarantine? What's that process been like for you?
Always, just like everyone watching this, always. Yeah, I mean, I'm always auditioning. I've had a few callbacks here and there, but you guys know how it is. It's, you know, you don't always book the role. I mean, I've had auditions lately where I've had a callback and they literally say, you know, you don't have the right look. You know, it sounds so cliche, and we hear that all the time, where it has nothing to do with your performance. And I've gotten so used to that at this point. I'm never auditioning for the role I'm auditioning for. I'm always auditioning for the next. So there's plenty of self-tapes going on, always.
Do you have any advice that you can share with us in terms of how to make the most of your self-tape, the most of that experience?
Yeah. Something that's always worked for me, and I'm a very energetic person, mind you. But I did this a lot in half-hour multicam, that kind of space, when I was with Disney. And I remember the directors, in an effort to keep us as kids engaged with the material that we were doing. And, you know, we were at a young age, so it was important that we felt involved and engaged. They'd get us up on our feet, literally. Once you get up on your feet, especially if you're cold reading or you're reading something for the first time, you come out of the material and you're living it, as opposed to reading it and being in that headspace. They're soaking it in. Like, once you get up, you read it out loud, you hold it in your hand, you put movement to it. That's always been the way that I've blocked scenes on film. You just put movement to it, and the energy comes from there. And I think that kind of energy and movement can actually help character development.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, as a final question for you, I feel like you've been at this for a few years now, looking back to when you were 15 auditioning for American Idol. What is one piece of advice that you would have given your younger self, first getting your start in this industry, that's you've learned along the way and it would have been helpful to know back then?
I think my number one piece of advice would be never, ever take it too seriously.
Mm.
The reason why I say that is because I remember as a young kid, the first few jobs I ever booked professionally, I mean, even at Chicago Shakespeare Theater, in the dressing room, I'd be doing my homework backstage because I had school the next morning. And but I never took it too seriously. And I think that helped me in my auditions. It helped me in my career in general because I never saw it as a career. I never thought, oh, okay, so this is my first professional gig. I'm now entering the entertainment industry. Here goes my career. I was just going along for the ride, and I've never taken it too seriously. And I think that's actually helped me go from hobby to career, just never taking it too seriously.
Yeah, yeah. And anything to temper the expectations, anything to help you kind of ride the wave of successes, of rejections, of everything that comes along with building a career in this field. I feel like you have a level head about it, to say the least. That's great.
Perseverance. And even if they say no, it doesn't matter. You know, you just soak it in and brush it off, immediately brush it off. Don't revel in it. I used to do that when I was a bit younger, but now hearing no is no different than hearing yes for me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, congratulations on this latest success. A Week Away is such a great film, and the world is seeing it now on Netflix. And to be able to flex all your creative muscles on this must have been so rewarding. So it's been great to have your ear, get to know you a little bit, and I'm excited to see what you do next.
Thank you so much, Benjamin. I really appreciate this. Thank you.
All right. Kevin, we'll be in touch. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.